As the days passed, my grandpa's hallucinations became more frequent and intense. He would often hear whispers and scratching sounds coming from the attic. He became paranoid and refused to leave the house, insisting that the monsters were watching him from outside. One night, I was checking on him when I heard a strange noise coming from the attic. It sounded like someone was crawling through the vents. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As I made my way up to the attic, my heart was racing with fear. I felt like I was walking into a trap, but I had to know what was up there. I slowly pushed open the attic door and peered inside. What I saw will haunt me forever. There, huddled in the corner of the attic, was a group of pale, gaunt figures. They were dressed in tattered clothing and had wild, sunken eyes. Their skin was stretched tight over their bones, and they looked like they hadn't eaten in months. As soon as they saw me, they let out a blood-curdling scream and charged towards me. I tried to run, but they were too fast. They caught me and dragged me into the darkness of the attic. For what felt like hours, I was trapped up there with those monsters. They taunted me with their whispers and their dead, lifeless eyes. I could hear my grandpa calling out to me from downstairs, but I was too scared to make a sound. When I finally escaped, I was covered in scratches and bruises. I tried to tell my family what had happened, but they didn't believe me. They said it was just my imagination and that my grandpa's medication was playing tricks on me. But I knew the truth. The monsters weren't just in my head. They were real, and they were coming for me. From that day on, I never went back to my grandpa's house again. I couldn't shake the feeling that the monsters were still up there, waiting for me to come back. Weeks later, Grandpa came over to my parents' house to stay while my parents were out on their anniversary. He asked me to go pick up some of his old collections upstairs. I made my way up the ladder, my heart racing with every step. As I reached the top, I could feel a cold breeze blowing past me. The attic was dark, and the only light came from a small window in the corner. I reached for my flashlight, but it wouldn't turn on. Suddenly, I heard a faint rustling sound from the far corner of the attic. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The sound grew louder, and I could hear something shuffling around in the darkness. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling with fear. There was no answer, but the shuffling grew more frenzied. I could hear something scurrying along the floorboards, coming closer and closer to where I was standing. I turned to run, but I stumbled on a loose board and fell to the ground. I could feel something crawling up my leg, its sharp claws digging into my flesh. I screamed in terror, but the sound was drowned out by the screeching of whatever was attacking me. With all my strength, I managed to kick the creature off of me and scramble to my feet. As I stumbled towards the ladder, I could see a pair of glowing eyes staring at me from the darkness. I didn't look back as I descended the ladder, my heart racing and my mind filled with terror. When I reached the ground, I collapsed onto the lawn, gasping for breath. My grandfather was waiting for me, his eyes filled with concern. "What happened?" he asked. "Something's up there," I gasped. "Something in the attic." He didn't seem surprised. "I've been hearing them for weeks," he said. "I thought it was just my imagination." Together we climbed the ladder and returned to the attic. This time I brought a flashlight that worked. As we scanned the space, we could see them. Dozens of creatures with glowing eyes and sharp claws, lurking in the shadows. We tried to run, but it was too late. The creatures descended upon us, tearing into our flesh with their razor-sharp teeth. We screamed in agony, but there was no one to hear us. In the end, I was the only one to survive. But I could never forget the horror of that night. The night I learned that sometimes the monsters don't just hide in your attic. Sometimes they come for you.